All right, welcome back, folks. My name is Dave. This is the Radical Independent. Thanks for subscribing to the channel. If you haven't already, please do. You can also help support this channel via Patreon and PayPal. The link to Patreon, which is shared with my music-based channel, is up on the right part of the banner. It's a little P logo. Just click on that, and you can do like $1 a month. Whatever you want to do, it's much appreciated. I got demonetized permanently on a video this week and still trying to figure out what I did wrong. And, you know, you work for a boss and your boss doesn't communicate with you, so you just don't know. How do you correct a behavior if your boss doesn't give you feedback? That's what I keep saying about this whole arrangement with YouTube, who is supposed to be a partner with me here. We're watching Tulsi Gabbard as she does another town hall event. Tulsi Gabbard, to me, is the anti-Donald Trump. If you're looking for a candidate in this race who is the exact opposite of Donald Trump. Now, let me just, there are some contending candidates out there, top-tier candidates, as Kamala Harris likes to say. I'm a top-tier candidate, who actually are authoritarian. Okay, Kamala Harris being one of them, and Donald Trump obviously hasn't seen an authoritarian principle that he's not happy endorsing or embracing. So Kamala Harris has some Donald Trump enzymes. Bernie, as much as I love Bernie, his speaking style and sort of his rough around the edges persona is somewhat like Donald Trump. You'd have a guy from Brooklyn taking on a guy from Manhattan if you had a general election. It would be interesting in that regard. But he's not the anti-Donald Trump. He might be anti-Donald Trump as far as ideology goes. I'm not sure about Bernie and the deep state and foreign policy. I'm not sure if he would cave in. Like Trump has hired John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, which to me indicates that Trump is willing to cave in, and I'm not sure if Bernie is also willing to cave in. Tulsi Gabbard? No way. No way. This is why she's running for president. And you can go down the list and look at other candidates who are establishment, people like Beto O'Rourke and Mayor Pete, in bed with the establishment. Mayor Pete's a scary character because he's currently running a city into the ground, basically, and he's telling everybody how great it is to live there, and he's listing his accomplishments and so forth, but he really has nothing other than this plastic smile on his face all the time. And, you know, he's deep state, CIA, and probably, you know, military deep state and all that stuff. And I guarantee you, in briefings, he would just sit there and nod and agree with the generals, whereas Tulsi Gabbard has said, I don't care how many stripes you have. I don't care how many bars you have. You're dealing with the commander-in-chief. And this is why she's different from any other candidate. But comparing her especially with Donald Trump, Trump is a guy who wants to pour gasoline on this, dumpster fire, which is basically the 24-hour news cycle. Trump is using this. Trump has decided that the soul of the country isn't really that important to his short-term vision of being, president for 8 years. 8 years is not a long time, considering all the major problems we have. And, he would rather just be king for the 8 years and tell everybody how great he is and brag about how many accomplishments he has. Talk about economic numbers, which are meaningless to most Americans. In other words, great, you've got 2 jobs and you still can't make ends meet. But, you can write this information down and say, hey, look at what I've accomplished. I've got, full unemployment or full employment now, or close to it, whatever, 5%, 3%. Again, if you're having trouble, getting quality health care, if you can't pay back your student loan debt, these are metrics that people really care about. GDP, that's why they're talking, the whole GDP thing also tends to reflect upon the profits in corporations, Wall Street. Haven't we all had enough of Wall Street? I know you might have a 401k, but so what? So what? I mean, maybe you'll have a small nest egg at the end, or maybe that nest egg will completely vanish because the whole thing is like the casino. You put some money down and you hope that the casino doesn't go broke. That's basically what this is. So when I look at Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, I'm not just seeing somebody who is equipped on day one to be the president of the United States. That is 100% true. I'm also looking at the fact that she would be a healer in this breach. We have a breach right now. And the tribalists seem to enjoy it. The CNNs, the people who want ratings, the YouTubers who are just doing videos about, okay, so-and-so said this about the other person today. Let's cover it. Let's talk about it. And I'm thinking to myself, how many times do people need to hear the same thing over and over again to get their, red meat juices going? Because that's what this is. This is just throwing red meat out to either tribe. And I'm sitting here going, we need solutions to these problems. We've got a candidate who can heal the breach and bring it back and get people thinking about issues. Look, you might not agree with her when it comes to things like Medicare for all, or forgiving student loan debt. I don't know how you don't agree with forgiving student loan debt. Well, there are a lot of kids that paid it back, and what do you say to them? You say, good job. You were in a corrupt system. Good job. The rest of these kids, though, who can't get jobs or can't get jobs to pay back these loans, or were sold a bill of goods that they would get a job that would enable them to pay these loans back. The whole system, by the way, is corrupt, because you should be talking about vocational training. You should be talking about other ways to be educated at the end of going to college. College is another scam. College is a Ponzi scheme. All right? So if you make public college free, say a kid goes for a couple of years and he figures out, hey, this isn't what I want to do, or I want to change the path that I'm currently on, they can do that and not feel as though they have to complete the 4 years and think, well, I've got to keep going, and then I'll be in debt, and then I'll be miserable after that. Anyway, that went off topic a little bit. I just look at everything through the lens where Tulsi Gabbard is infinitely better than a Donald Trump in so many ways, and she truly is the anti-Trump. If there's matter and antimatter, you know what? Tulsi is the antimatter and Trump is the matter. You know what I mean? There's a lot that's wrong with Donald Trump, and there's a lot right with Tulsi Gabbard. And these little, I don't know, what you'd call picky criticisms about her meeting with a dictator and so forth, or her association with this dude Modi. It's just crazy how people have elevated these concerns to a place where they absolutely have nothing to do with these people in this audience. They have nothing to do. Tulsi's explaining to them that unless we break free from the shackles that we are currently in. And by the way, she's a free speech advocate. So you may say, well, she's got that in common with Trump. Trump's all about free speech. Well, Trump says the media is the enemy of the people. All right? So that's not going to help the situation. Tulsi Gabbard is basically saying, hey, I may not agree with what you're saying, but you've got a right to say it. And that's been the default position, especially of old-time liberals and Democrats, since I can remember. They used to say, look, I would disagree with you on pretty much everything you just said, but I will defend your right to say it to my death, because the First Amendment is the bedrock of pretty much every aspect of our government and our society and the way we interact, because once we all start lying to each other, nobody knows the truth anymore. And that's kind of what's happening, because you've got a tribal left that tells lies, you've got a tribal right who tells lies or does what I say, lies by omission a lot of time. They'll only give you half a statistic. And then if you go digging in there, you'll find other things. So when you look at her candidacy, when you look at Tulsi Gabbard, you see somebody who's poised and ready to be the anti-Donald Trump from day one. And to me, that could save the country. It could save us from civil, we'll call it civil disobedience. I was going to use a harsher term. She could save us from so many things that I see coming down the road. Economic peril, environmental peril, just personal relationships and interactions with our fellow citizens. I mean, maybe you think I'm just making this out to be something that it isn't, but Tulsi Gabbard is a healer. There's a breach in who we are, and again, not to keep repeating it over and over again, right now we need somebody to go in there and calm the storm a little bit, not to keep pouring gasoline on it. And so I would implore you to stay the course with Tulsi. I know I've been talking about the Green Party and so forth. I'm not ready to completely abandon this ship as of yet, although I am making preparations because I still believe the Democratic Party is going to somehow just shut this all down and pick their anointed candidate, either Biden or Warren. And all you Bernie people who are hanging on, hang on. I think a rough ride is ahead for you guys. I think there's going to be super delegates that come along. I know they're not in the first ballot, but you split this three ways between Biden, Warren, and Bernie. Where are those super delegates going to go? They're going to go where the establishment wants them to go. And as far as Tulsi goes, if she can continue to poll like 8% in Iowa, which is what she's polling at, according to a poll I talked about yesterday that did real data and research and real analytics that you can kind of break down and look at, and it's not, and the margin of error is reasonable. If she continues to do well in places like Iowa and New Hampshire, she's going to be in this for the long haul. She'll be in this until the first primary. She's not going to drop out. So that's why I'm hanging in there. And I'm really hanging in here because this is the best candidate of my lifetime. And there's just no point in calling it quits, because really giving up means that you're giving in to the establishment. And I'm not willing to do that. So Tulsi Gabbard, the lady in white, yeah, this is analogous to the whole video here. She stepped up there at that last debate she was in, and she's all dressed in white. And as Jimmy Dore's sidekick said, Steph, she looked like an angel standing next to a woman who wasn't dressed the same way, who looked a little like an undertaker. And it was, I don't know, it was good versus evil. Or good versus not so good. We'll say that. Anyway, that's my video. Thanks again for supporting this channel. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. And I will leave a link for one-time PayPal donations. They're still coming in. And those of you who've donated, I'm thanking you here. I typically try to send an email directly to you thanking you for your contributions to this channel. Remember, this channel is part of a network of independent media out here who supports Tulsi Gabbard, who knows what's at stake. Most of us aren't into identity politics. We're into issues. And we're just trying to save our country from, certain doom and disaster which lies ahead. All right. See you soon.